light? This is very good, huh? People can see me. That's nice. And they doesn't stay here too close to me, and then they just see my face. It's like, this is a bit weird. But like that, I'm just there. Another one. I like it. I like it. It's Nana there. Nana there? No, it means you might have to be there. Okay, so welcome. Welcome to this class. Is it your first time here? Yours? You too? No.
First time here.
Your first time here?
I think so. I mean, I've been to the Theosophical Society.
Yes.
A couple other Dharma centers.
Yes. But not to be here. Very nice. And you? No? You been here before? Ah, very good. Very welcome back then. And you, I think you came on Sunday, yeah? I still remember you, yes. So very nice. So these classes that we do here on Thursdays, we are basing, it's really a basis. Doesn't mean that it's going to be really following a book called How to Practice Dharma. It's a book from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, our teacher over there, who founded this center. And it's a book that goes talking about how to practice Dharma in our daily lives and what actually means to practice Dharma. Dharma, is the teachings of the Buddha. What the Buddha thought. And of course, the Dharma has many different connotations and different depth of understanding. So what we are doing is that following what Rinpoche is really emphasizing on the book, which is for us to be free from our self-cherishing, from our selfish attitudes, from our negative tendencies. And from there, if we really understand what it is, then we can actually practice Dharma. So we're going to go a little bit deeper into this today as well. We are following some of the chapters, trying to follow some of the chapters. Because I go around, and then sometimes I go like, in another direction. So that's what we're gonna do. And before we start any of these activities, we always start with a motivation. It's the Buddhist teachings, they can be divided into three main kind of like ways of seeing it, as the Dalai Lama likes. And one of them is the science of the mind. And the science of the mind is almost like it's literally a science because it's to understand how the mind works. If you think about it, we know a lot about how the brain works, that biology, neuroscience and all of that. It's definitely evolving each day more and more. But the mind or consciousness, which we use in the same way, synonymous, no, of the same word, but what they actually mean and how do they work, how it is the functioning and the nature of our minds and our consciousness. So that, if I can say, Buddha 2600 years ago, almost 2600 years ago, he was a hell of a scientist. he Some of these conversations that nowadays the Dalai Lama is having with some of these incredible scientists is that the science of now is coming to the same conclusion that the Buddha came 2005, 600 years ago, which is very special to see because it moves us to continue following the Buddhist teachings and bringing together the science so we can actually make it even more useful for our day and age. Because that is the idea of the Buddha. The Buddha doesn't need, for the Dharma to become something that, oh, only monks and nuns in the monasteries out there, not like this. But it needs to be something that we use on our daily lives. It needs to be something useful, something that will help us to decrease and fight our negative tendencies. That's what Dharma really is. It needs to be something that actually goes against our negative habits and tendencies, and especially our selfishness, our egocentric aspect. So that is the meaning of Dharma. So for doing that, for doing a Dharma activity, we say that the result for it to become Dharma, it depends on the intention. Whatever the intention it is that we are bringing that we are creating or motivating ourselves with will bring a certain result. So this is kind of like easy to understand. That's how it is in everything in life, right? It's easy to understand the mechanics of this, but very hard to practice. I saw your face of like, yeah, but yes, this is exactly what it is. It is easy to understand the mechanics that, oh, if I do that, that is going to be the result, right? If I plant a seed of orange, I'm not going to have apples, right? It's it's obvious. But the same way that this cause and effect relationship works for a seed, it works for the seeds we plant in our minds. If we plant seeds that are positive, they have a positive intention, the result can only be positive. There's no other way. There is no other possibility. So this is the same for negative seeds that we plant. So if we plant negative seeds, the result is going to be negative. There's no other way. So this is very important, and we need to remember that. We need to remember that and understand that. So that's why when we start whatever activity we are doing, especially something like this, because we're going to try, we are here because we want to try to learn something that will help us. So let them create a motivation that will help us to achieve something positive out of it. So of course there's cause and conditions for these to come together. It's not only planting the seed. We want a tree to grow, and then we plant a seed, and then we just stay there looking at the seed and say, come on, come on. That doesn't work, right? So you need to moisture it, you need to put light, you need to kind of like check if there's no kind of like, any other animals coming and eating the seed. So like that, we also need to cultivate aspects of our life that will nourish and make that seed sprout into something positive that we want. But for that, first we need the intention. That's what we're going to try to do now. Okay, just for a few moments we're going to try to generate a positive intention for being here. Once you guys came, drove from home or from work, or so, then at least we try to create a positive intention. We just take a moment. We can check our bodies, check if there's any type of tension. We try to let it go of any difficulties of the body that we might think that we have right now. We just try to relax and be present here. And we can start to also look at the state of our mind, just observing our thoughts, emotions, feelings, checking in where are we in relation to our mental state. We try to let it go of worries about the future or the past. The past is gone. We can only learn from it and not change it. and future might not even arrive. But being here is a present, is a gift. So let's try to create a positive intention for being here, for listening, for talking, contemplating, meditating. And for that, we need to be very honest with ourselves and check, why are we here? What brought us here? What we are trying to achieve, to gain. So whatever it is that we are trying to gain by being here, whatever it is that we call, or whatever the reasons are, they have as basis this underlying wish that we all share, to be wanting to be happy and wanting to be free from suffering. Wanting to be free from problems and dissatisfactions. Dissatisfaction that happens in our lives with different things. So you might have come to the right place, because the Buddhist teachings say that we can completely eliminate our suffering and the causes of our suffering. And not only that, but we are able to achieve this lasting, full of joy, compassion, love, kindness, wisdom type of happiness. For that, we need to understand the nature of our mind, how we work, check our negative tendencies and habits, let them go, and develop a right view on how to understand how things work, how reality functions. And if we all share this wish to be happy and to not suffer, then once we do that for ourselves, we achieve that, we are able to help others to do the same. So whatever we do here today, whatever we hear, whatever we say, whatever we meditate or contemplate on, may we use in order to achieve this state, so we can help others to do the same. We can motivate ourselves like that. And in order to help us develop this wish and to increase this wish, we're going to do some aspirational prayers, as we say. Just prayers in by itself, they're not going to help. But we're going to create the habit of aspiring, creating the wish to open our hearts for others. So we're going to start on page 35 of this book. I don't know if you have it over there. Yes? How are you? Good? Yes? Maybe she needs a book as well. Yes? So we're going to start on the top of page 35, and then we're going to go back to 34 to finish what we call the four immeasurables. And the immeasurables, they are just these kind of like qualities that our mind have that we can expand: love, compassion, joy. But we need to train that, because right now, spontaneously anger, spontaneously, jealousy, spontaneously pride arises. So we need to train in spontaneously becoming, compassionate, spontaneously becoming loving, kind. Unfortunately, that's how we are at, but we can do it. Okay? That's why these prayers are, they are kind of like a mind training to help us to do this. So we start on top of page 35. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Now we go to page 34 and the four immeasurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And now we go to page 89 or 98. 98. So now we're gonna take refuge and generate this altruistic mind, what we call bodhicitta. And the refuge means that, well, we take refuge in so many things in our lives, especially nowadays. Instagram, Netflix, food, that's our main refuges, no? We are feeling a bit discomfortable, uncomfortable with something. We don't know. We need something to distract ourselves, our phones, and then we go to something that, these are the refuges we take we take on ourselves now. But here we wanted to take refuge in something that actually can help us and not gonna kind of like distract us from really feeling and going inside to check what is going on, so we can, with wisdom and compassion, overcome these problems and not just suppress it and leave it there and then at some point just explodes in one way or another. So that's why we do those. We take refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, which is the teachings, and the Sangha. The Sangha, like the idea of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha is like the Buddha is the doctor, the Dharma is the medicine, and the Sangha are the helpers, the nurses, helping us on our path. So that's why we need help. And bodhicitta is this idea that I want to achieve this state of a Buddha. Because the Buddha is not like some type of, you know, holy thing. No, just everybody has the potential to become a Buddha. But we want that because we want to help others. Because if we are in that space where we don't suffer anymore and we develop all of the qualities we have, then we have all the necessary tools to better help others. Because if we are drowning, we don't know how to swim, and we say, I'm going to help you, come, I'm going to help. I don't think we're going to be very effective. Or you see someone on the street and then, you You say, I'm a doctor, and oh, did you study medicine? No. Maybe it's not the best for you to then try to take care of this person, right? But that's what we are. We think that we know best. We think that we know everything, but actually we are still suffering. We are still in our selfish mindsets, right? So here the idea is to expand the heart, get out of our minds that only think me. Oh, let me think about others. And then life becomes purpose. Then we have purpose and meaning in life, right? That's what we're gonna do. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. With these aspirations, we hope that whatever we're going to do today, that at least is beneficial. So we've been talking about the 8 worldly concerns in this in the book of Rinpoche called the How to Practice Dharma. And the 8 worldly concerns, they are actually 4 attachments and 4 attachments to the opposite of these 4. So what are they? Someone remember? You guys that have been here? Let's see if they pay attention to anything that I said for the last 7 weeks. What are the 8 worldly concerns? Pain and pleasure. Yes, very good. So we are attached to pleasures, right? Pleasure experiences. We only want that. That's very easy to see. That's what we're wanting, pleasures. And we are attached to the idea of avoiding pain, which it makes sense in some sort of way. Nobody wants to actually experience pain. But the problem is the avoiding part. We are attached to avoiding suffering. And the avoiding it is a part that actually, instead of creating the result that we want, which is to get away from the painful experience, it brings the opposite. It creates more problems because we start to cover that situation with more and more. It's kind of like a, how do you say, a snowball, no? That it just starts very small and then we start to because we start to avoid and then we don't talk and then situations that we try to not, especially with relationships. I think we can definitely see that something happens, we don't say anything, and then we don't say anything, and then for after the 5th time we are just like and then after the 10th times, and then after 10 years we are like exploding. So that is the problem with the avoidance of pain. Okay, so those are the two first ones. Then attachment to gain and loss. Very good. Or we can say also comfort, right? And discomfort. And this is more about material things, That is quite easy. We are in America, it's easy to see how we are attached to comfort and very attached to discomfort, right? Right now it's kind of like we live in an aircon bubble. We are in a bubble at home, and then we go to the car is another bubble. We go to supermarket is a bubble. It's like, and then we don't want to get out and have some hot air anywhere. It's easy to see how we are. These comforts are so normal. And then I was remembering I was talking to someone today, and I was talking about how I remember when I was in some of the monasteries, in the South India, and we had this very noisy fan making boom, boom, and it was not really working, but the fan was just there, I think, for giving the idea of. But we were so happy, no problem. Just no problem. That was there, okay, because there was not much we could do, we could not have. But here, because we have the possibility and everything material, it's easy to get, then we become even, it's like we suffer more if you think about it. You understand? It's like, but I want it because I can have it. And then you go to supermarket. My best thing that I like to do here when I'm not in the center is go to supermarkets. You know, I go to supermarkets and I just look around and I see and I say, wow, so many options we have, right? Too many. Because then you don't know what to choose. But the mind just creates those comfort, that craving of like, oh yeah, but I need this, but I need that. You know? It's like, especially I learned some very good lessons is that never go to supermarket if you're hungry. Never. It's like, don't do that. Especially in America, I'm learning that, you know, you have too many options, so you're like, wow. So then everything becomes like this. That is the attachments that we have for comfort. And we want to be in a nice bed, and we want to be in a nice car, and we want to have the best, you know, phone, and that's what we want. That's what the minds are all the time, thinking about it. The problem is that these things change. They are impermanent, as we say. So they are constantly changing. And because of that, what happens? We suffer when we don't get. And then not only this, but we get what we want, and then we suffer because we decide we get afraid of losing it, afraid of the person that we love, you know, leaving us, or we are afraid that someone's gonna steal our car, or something's gonna happen, we're gonna lose or break our phones, and we get worried about that. So our minds go these in push and pulls all the time in this. So this is the second um, pair. Third one, acceptance and rejection. Yes, we use different words, but yes, exactly. We use the word of good reputation and bad reputation. That is very easy to see. We live our lives being the good girl and the good boy, you know, wanting to do everything correct for everybody, pleasing everybody, and doing, oh no, yes, yes, yes. But actually, we are not even interested in the person. We are not even interested in doing what we are doing. We just want the recognition, right? That reputation that look how I am smart, look how I am good, look how I'm holy. I'm this monk, I'm sitting here meditating. You know, that's what we do. We do all of these things, completely crazy things, to just grasping for that reputation. You know? Oh no, because people are gonna think that I'm a failure because if I don't have a job, if I don't have that job, if I don't live in that area, if I don't have that car, if I don't have this, if I don't have that. Wow, it's so tiring, isn't it? And then we have the attachment to avoid, or the fear of losing these things, or not having, you know, these a good reputation, having a bad reputation. You know, we are constantly, someone says something to you, you would immediately, no, 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 but it wasn't me. No, no, no. You start to how do you say that? Yeah, justifying yourself. Exactly, you start to justify yourself, right? No, 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 but it wasn't me. It was, no, no, it was not like this. No, 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 but
Wasn't my fault.
it wasn't my fault. Exactly, it was his fault. It was not my fault. You know, especially when you're kids. You know, you have your mother's gonna ground you. We had three boys at home, and I was the youngest. So you know, my brothers used to always put the blame on me. You know, and then me, I used to say it was not me, it was them. You know, it was always fighting. No, it was him. Was him. Was him. Because we knew we were going to be scolded if whoever got the blame, right? So that is what we do. We do it also like that. But there's no mommy and daddy, but there is the boss. There is, you know, the relationship, the friendship, or the person that we want to impress. It's the same. We live this kind of like slave of others, of what people are gonna think about us. That's no, not very good. And the fourth one, I'm gonna help you. It's very similar, but it's more in relation to praise. We want to receive praise. It's not only having a good reputation, but we want to hear, tell me that I am nice, you know? And we are so afraid of criticism. The words, you know? Someone saying to us, Jack, you didn't do a good job with the recording, you know? That's what we do. That's how it works in our minds. You know, someone says something, you immediately say, you know, no, but that it is. And these eight or these four pairs, we are fighting and we are struggling and we are thinking about them all the time. The best way to check if this is true is try to meditate. Let's do a meditation. And then what happens? Check what is happening in your mind. What is distracting you from the meditation? It's easy. It's easy to see. Now that you know these categories of the eight worldly dharmas, you can just be categorizing each of them. Attachment to this. Aversion to this. And then you're gonna see. I always say that reading this book of Rinpoche, I try to read this book every year, but it's bucket of cold water in our Dharma practice, you know? We think they were so holy, so spiritual. Oh yes, I know so much and things like that. And then you hear all of these again and again, and you start to see, I just think about worldly concerns. I just think about that. I just think about my comfort. I just think about, like nice food. I just think about, having people say nice things to me. Oh, it's very easy to see. But we need to observe. We need mindfulness. We need to be aware of these things. We need to cultivate and familiarize ourselves. That's what meditation is about. Meditation is about familiarization. And that's what we do. We familiarize ourselves with checking and being aware of this. So don't believe in anything I say, especially me. That's what the Buddha said. He said, don't believe in anything Cowden says. Not like exactly like that, but he said, don't believe in anything people are saying, but experience for yourself. That is the beauty about Buddhism, is like it is not a dogmatic type of philosophy. It is an experiential. So it needs to come from your own experience. Because otherwise I'm here saying all of these and you're gonna be like, no, I don't feel like that. Good. Experience, try. And then analysis, investigation, doubt are very important because they are going to be kind of like the tools that we're going to use in order to check, to be kind of like, let me see if this is true. Let me see if that kind of like a hairy, crazy monk was saying is true. You go in your daily lives, you go, you see, and then you check, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Why am I saying this to this person? Why am I bothered because that person said this to me? You start to check. Then life becomes very interesting, and then you start to join everything that happens in your life with Dharma practice. Then life becomes joyful. Then life becomes juicy, you know? Because everything that we do actually becomes a way to discover and to understand our own mind, to see really what is going on in our minds. And not in these autopilot that we live, just kind of like following things because we are just in the habitual tendencies of the mind. We have a possibility. We do have habits, and these habits do have a very strong pull into deciding how we're going to make and decide things, but they are not like, they don't need to continue being like that. We can change, we can shift them, right? That is the idea. That is why it is so important for us to understand these eight worldly dharmas. And that's why I say that it is important that we kind of like try to observe these, especially when we do meditation. Why we don't meditate? Why we say that we don't? Many people come to me and say, "Oh yes, especially when I was teaching in Nepal. In Nepal, we have this very nice monastery called Kopan, and it's a monastery that we where Lama Zopa and Lama Yeshe started. Actually, they started. Lama Yeshe was born in Tibet. Rinpoche was born in Nepal, and they met in India. When because they were all both of them in Tibet when China invaded Tibet, and then they went to India. So they met over there, and then they came to Nepal because Lama Zopa was from Nepal, and Lama Zopa was considered the reincarnation of this very special yogi in these mountains outside of Kathmandu called Laudo in the Solokhumbu. For those that know about mountains, is in the same area of the Everest, and that very, very low mountains over there, that place. So then they were there together, and then they started this place called Laudo Gompa. Gompa means meditation hall. Okay, so Gompa is a Tibetan word to say Gong means meditation. Okay, and Ha means place. So place of meditation. That's what we. So they started that, and then because Rinpoche was so special in the way, and Lama, all of the young kids of the area started to come and become monks there. So they started to become many monks. They didn't have space, and the temperatures in the winter was so cold. So then they started to go to Kathmandu during the winter, and they got this place in the top of a hill called Hopan Hill. It was where the astrologer of the king of Nepal used to live. So that's where they kind of like got the place. It's a very small little place in this hill outside of in beautiful fields and all of that. Nowadays, not so many fields because it grew so much in Nepal. So then they started over there. And then with time, they used to spend winter down in Kathmandu and summer up in the mountains. And then at some point became too many people, so then they started. So nowadays in Kopan is a 450, 475, just inventing here, of monks and 500 and 500 nuns in a place just below the monastery. So we have two places nowadays, beautiful places, very special. So over there in Kopan, mm, since the beginning in the 70s, Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa started to give teachings to the Westerners. You know, the hippies who went over there looking for, experiences and meaning in their lives. And I always say it's drugs as well, what they went. And then they found these lamas giving these amazing teachings that were literally transforming their lives, right? And they started to give these teachings every year. So nowadays, the monastery not only is a monastery for the monks, but also we have teachings and classes for Westerners. So they can actually be there. And especially one special course called the November course, because it's in November. Very smart. And then they have a 1 month Lamrim, a 1 month of the entire stages of the path to enlightenment, which is a very specific of this tradition, right? Is a series of meditations and philosophy points that will guide you until enlightenment. So they have that. So I was there, especially this year, and then I was giving some blah 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 talks and guiding meditations, and then people would come, and then they would love, and they would be in this amazing place, Kopan, and feel so holy and so amazing. You know, you need to give your phone so you don't have phones, you don't have distractions. A very intense experience. We do normally 10 days in introduction courses. So people stay 10 days without phones, computers, anything. So, can be quite challenging. Parts of it we are in silence as well. It's very interesting. And then they go home. They continue traveling, but at some point they go home. And then they start to write me letters. I cannot meditate. It's so hard. But when I was in Kopan, it was so easy. It's because then I need to go back to Kopan. That's the answer. I always say, I don't think that that's the answer. Because meditation we don't do in a place, right? Meditation is in the mind. It's not the body. It's not the place. Meditation is in the mind. So I say, yes, there you can have more conducive circumstances, less distraction, you're not speaking, you are in a place where everybody is trying to meditate, but it can be more conducive, but it's not the only way to meditate. So, what it is that is hard for you to meditate? Oh, because I just start thinking about everything I have to do, everything I want to buy, everything I want to do, everything. And then I say, that's called the eight worldly dharmas. That's called the eight worldly concerns. So you go and you read this book, How to Practice Dharma. And then you're going to understand then you're going to start to really look and see that it stops me from meditating, from sitting down and looking inside and contemplating into these beautiful topics about impermanence, about death, about, how we suffer, about our emotions, how they work, about opening our heart. All of these incredible things that can help us to live a more fulfilling, happy, less suffering life. Why we don't want that? Well, because we spend our time thinking about, oh yes, because next week I'm gonna do that and then this and that and I need to buy this, I need to do this, I need to do that. Our shopping list we start doing, best thing when you go meditate, shopping list comes, oh yeah, I need to buy this, I need to buy that, or things I need to do in the future. They're just thinking like that. But then, as we said in the motivation, future might not even arrive. We might not even know if we're gonna finish this class. Maybe I'm gonna die here. Possible. Maybe we get the car, we have an accident, we don't even get home, right? So many options. In the text, they say for us to understand about dying is that we have more conditions to be dead than actually to be alive. Being alive is quite an amazing accomplishment that we do every day. So many things can actually happen to us, right? We have no control. Like in Miami, I can't remember if, when I arrived here, someone told me that there was a building that collapsed in the middle of the night or something like that, right? Something like this.
There were people that bought condos in there like a week before.
That's it. You see things like that. Or people, I saw someone told me that there was people that was just visiting that day or something like that, right? So we don't know. We don't know. We don't have that real strong conviction that I am not gonna die. Well, we think like that, but if we analyze, we investigate, is it really like this? Why do we waste our time with these things that don't bring us what we want? They don't actually bring, because every time that we get whatever our eight worldly concerns are telling us to get, whatever the material things that we want, whatever praise we receive, whatever, do we get satisfied? We have a very tiny bit of satisfaction, very temporary, you know? And especially nowadays, it's becoming even faster. We get a new phone and we're like, oh my God, it's so nice. 5 minutes, then gone. And then, it already became part of you. You already forget that you really wanted that. And now, oh yeah, now there's an iPhone 25, now I need a new iPhone 25. I don't even know what's the number we have, but then just that constant craving, constant like pushing ourselves to get more and more and more and more and more. And then when we get what we want, we don't get that happiness that we actually want. Right? Does it make sense what I'm saying? Like, do you agree with that? Is your experience that? Because that is the most important. You need to check whatever I'm saying. Is that my experience? How does I experience that in my life? What is in my life? We can think about that. Let's do a group discussion here. What is, if you have to pinpoint your attachments, the eight worldly concerns, what is the biggest one for you?
Yeah, water here last Sunday.
It's not her. It's nothing to do with her. Don't blame the kid. he brought his 8 months 8 months
See that face.
granddaughter, but no, she's not the attachment. The attachment is something else. Don't put the blame on the kid. What is the attachment? The attachment is not her. What it is? Oh, what it is? What is love and what is attachment? Because
Oh,
that
I
is
do.
different.
Yeah.
We talked about that
I
on
just
Sunday,
wanted to
right?
be happy. So I guess that is not really attachment. I just want her to be happy.
That's it. Very
And
different.
I know that there's a possibility that I could lose her before she loses me.
Yes.
Less of a possibility, but
Yes, it is
could
true.
happen.
It is true. It is true. But that is what is kind of like the love, it is wanting her to be happy. The attachment, it's not understanding or not accepting or not seeing that this is a possibility, right? Because then when we actually start to see it like that, the way we're going to relate to her is going to be totally different, right? The way we relate to others when we see things as they really are, is very different. If we all here would really think and believe that we can die after we leave this place, before we reach home, what would you like to accomplish? I would definitely call my parents, call my family, and say, I love you guys. I'm so sorry if I never tell you enough, but I really love you guys. And do strong prayers for my teachers for being a very bad monk, very bad practitioner, so that they can help me next life. But you see, if we would think like that, we would act in very different ways. We would act in different ways on the way we live our daily lives. But no, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to be thinking what I'm going to eat when I get home, right? Oh, yes, tomorrow I have to do this. You already start. We think it is. Of course, that there is a part of us that needs to think about the future. A beautiful teacher called Thich Nhat Hanh. He was Zen, more of a Zen master. So he was very, very slow in the way that he would kind of like very subdued, very, very special, very aware and mindful in everything that he used to do. Very inspiring. His books, I always, when I used to read a lot of kind of like the more intellectual, because the Tibetans, they are more hardcore, like studies and philosophy. So you sometimes get a bit like, and then his books are just like a poetry, very beautiful, very, yeah, very nice. And he used to say, he has a very nice book that he used to say, there's nothing wrong with thinking about the future, but we do that in the present and understanding the present. That means that understanding the present means that is what we have. The future might never be there. So as long as you do that, you think about the future, because if you want to get to go to Nepal, or if you want to, you need to buy a ticket. So you need to think about it. In a couple of months, I want to go to Nepal. But you do that now, understanding it now. That is very interesting. That's not normally how we live our lives. So understanding these eight worldly concerns, it helps us to bring ourselves to a more realistic way of living. Less suffering, less dissatisfaction. So what else in your cases? Come on, we are opening our hearts here. Or online people, you also can participate, huh? So what it would be out of the eight worldly concerns, which one is the one that you have struggled the most? Let's see, they're all sleeping and nobody's there.
I did find something interesting yesterday morning. I went to make my oatmeal and I didn't have raisins, little box of raisins to put in it. And immediately the irritation rose up.
Very good.
And I thought it was hilarious.
Yes, it's good, huh? But did that?
Yeah, no, I feel raisins in my oatmeal.
No, it's the attachment to the comforts, right? Yes.
I mean, the oatmeal without the raisins is so
Plain.
ordinary.
Yeah, exactly. And especially because you've had it before, right?
Every day.
You can have it because you know where to buy them, but you don't have it now. Then the mind goes. That is very easy to see as well if you think about it. People normally, when they achieve a certain status or a certain level of comfort in their lives, to go back, you know, to a more, let's say you have a very nice Ferrari or Lamborghini or something like that. Now you need to have a Toyota. It's like, you know? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, It's an amazing car, don't get me wrong. I know. But exactly, it's hybrid. Exactly, it's much better. But do you understand? For the person that had that idea that a Ferrari or Lamborghini was the status and the best and all of that, go down, right? So we can check our lives, how we all are having getting stressed and irritated because of raises, because of not having raises. Check that. It's a very good example. It's very kind of like uh, easy to realize, no? Easy to see. It's like get irritated because I don't have raisins in my tent. That's it. And we can see that in many other places, especially when you're driving and people cut in front of you, or you go to the supermarket, there's a huge line and you're like, oh no, or you want to do something and someone kind of like, you want to get out of here and then there's a car parking behind you, all of these things. Because we are just thinking about me, myself, and I, and the eight worldly concerns. So these mindsets is that what we need to understand. So they are the biggest obstacles for us to find happiness. And when we talk about happiness in Buddhism, there's a beautiful book actually from very special monk. He's a Western monk, French monk called Mathieu Ricard, and he was actually a scientist, and there's two books, nice books. One of his books he wrote with his dad, called The Monk and the Scientist, and his conversations between him and his dad, which is a scientist. But he was also a scientist, but he wrote a book about happiness. I think it's called Happiness. That's the name, I think. Big book. A lot of scientific background and explanations about happiness, which is very similar to the Buddhist understanding. But happiness, it is an experience of full of experience. It's an experience that is full in itself. So when we talk about happiness in Buddhism, we talk about not having suffering and the causes of suffering, and having perfected or having developed all the good qualities that we have inside of ourselves. Because that is what we also need to remember. We use all our time with the Eightfold Worldly concerns, but we have so many good qualities. We are so kind, generous, patient, loving, compassionate, wise. But we waste all this energy to get that, to get our eight worldly concerns, instead of using it to find a more lasting, a more non-changing satisfaction, a non-changing state of happiness. Instead of that, what we want, we chase temporary, immediate pleasures all the time, right? Oh yeah, if someone says something nice to me, oh, I'm so happy. And the next day, someone criticizes me, oh, I'm so sad. Oh, I'm so happy. I mean, chase this. We chase that all the time, again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Instead of looking for a state of mind that can bring us, just stay in happiness. Nothing is missing. We don't need anything. There's no need to hear words to find our own value. There's no bad uh, feeling or experience if someone says something bad to us. There's no grasping for the next comfort, for the next idea, right? For the next iPad. If we have it, we have it. If we don't have it, we don't have it. But what we do is that we open our hearts to use those qualities that we have right now to help others. We shift from thinking about me, my comfort, my idea, my satisfaction, my status, my good reputation, but we think about others.
question.
Yes, please. I love questions.
What do you recommend with the raisins? Do you suggest to go with that raisins for a month, or just be aware of the fact that you're craving the raisins?
Yes.
Um,
There's no right or wrong answer here. Why? Because it depends on what is going to work for you. But then we need to check what we want to achieve. And what we want to achieve is recognizing our attachment, seeing the faults of this attachment, seeing how this attachment creates a bad experience, a negative feeling, an unpleasant sensation. That is what it is. And then understanding that, oh, I can transform that. So you don't need to not have the raising, but you can try to work with your mind on observing the attachment. And at some point that the raisings start to even be needed. You understand? You can do that just by observing the mind and seeing the faults of the attachment and say, let me try today without the raisins. And you do it from your own side. If you need sometimes, yes, you need to put it away. That's why we talk about when we go into the retreat. Retreat means you retreat from the objects of the 8 worldly concerns, right? You let it go of the distractions of the objects that can be so strong for you that you cannot handle, right? So you can do a raise and retreat.
Hi, Jack. I bought 18 boxes of raisins.
I know. That's normally what we do. That's normally what attachment does. You know, attachment does exactly this. It doesn't get what we want, we go to the extreme, right? We want to have the best, the more, so it never happens again. That's in mind. Very good. Very good to see that. But that is what retreat is about, right? So we don't necessarily need to, but there's a lot of benefits on not having the objects of attachment close to us. That's why when in this tradition we talk a lot about retreat. Retreat means to to withdraw yourself from these objects, because this helps us to have a more calm mind, to observe our minds and to work with these. So when the raisins are there, we already know and we don't fall for the trap. You understand? That is why it's kind of like we are training, and then we go back to practice, right? We train, and then is the game, you know. So that is how retreat is so special. But retreat in itself also can become a completely um, uh, worldly Dharma retreat. We can be there thinking, look how I'm special. Oh, everybody's going to say to me that I've done this retreat. And then, you know, or I'm going to be just there doing whatever I'm doing, trying to meditate and just thinking about, oh, when I leave here, I'm going to do this, when I do that, da, 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 da. The difficulty of retreat and the beauty of it is that when you take away the distractions, you have a more conducive circumstances and idea to go inside and to check your own mind. But that is the difficulty, because there's only you and you with your mind. So there's no more blaming on the wife that didn't get the raisins, you know, or there's no more blaming on the raisins. It is you with yourself. Of course, we're still going to be eating, we're still going to be doing things, but even these can become a way of us getting triggered, right? We are in a place, so the place is not comfortable enough. So we are in a place that we don't have the kind of like what we want. We cannot have access to all the distractions. So the mind starts to, it's almost like when you drink too much coffee and then you stop drinking coffee for a few days, you have a, how do you say that? A withdrawal, right? It's exactly like this. So then it depends. What do you decide? What you can actually do? If we do too much, if we take out and we try not to have the raisins for a month, we try 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Sometimes it becomes too much, right? Then instead of helping us, it becomes something that we might say, I don't want to know anymore about this. I just want to have my raisins alone and that's it. So we need to be careful on where is our limit, where we are at, what we can actually do about it. And that is very important for us to try and experience in our daily lives. For example, when you wake up, don't touch your phone for the next hour. I don't touch, I try to not touch my phone until I finish my meditations, my practice, 1.5 hours. And then we have the morning meditation. And then just before, I normally check my phone to see if everybody's alive, if there's anything going on, you know? And then we do the meditation, 7:30 to 8. And then after that, I check again to see, and then that's it. And before going to bed, try to put it away. So these are just small details, but that you can use. Why? Because the phone is very addictive to us. It's a big distraction for us to engage into the eight worldly dharmas. We see more and more objects of desire, right? I remember when I came back to Europe this time, when I was in Nepal for like almost 5 months, 6 months, and I arrived in London, and I was in a train coming out of the airport. I could see people because I was standing and there's people sitting, and I didn't want to, but people have their phones, and then you could see one person was just looking, one girl was just looking for makeup, the other guy was just looking for clothes on his phone, the other person was looking just for kind of like where I'm gonna travel next. We're just craving for the new experience, for the new thing all the time, right? And the phones bring that in our face all the time. So the phone in itself is bad? No. That's what we normally think. The phone is bad. So we try to throw away. I have a friend, a monk friend in the monastery, that he had a phone, and then he used to sometimes get so addicted to the phone sometimes, that he would like stay looking at it, and then he would throw the phone away, you know and break the phone, or do something like that. And then 3 4 months later he would say, I need to buy a new phone. And then I said, the phone in itself has nothing wrong with the phone, right? The phone is just a ways of communicating, which can be very useful. You know, my family is not here, so they are far away, so I can communicate with them. We communicate with people from all over the world, so you can use that. But it's the attachment to it, is the idea that we are using that as an avoidance of our own mind, and an attachment to increase our attachment, right? Attachment to feeling nice. So Instagram nowadays is just perfect people. Nobody has any faults. Nobody, has any problems. Everybody's just amazing, beautiful, traveling the world, doing amazing things and whatever. No, nobody has any problems. Sounds a bit weird to me. Because if I understand my own mind and the minds of others that we are very similar, we are all suffering, right? We're all suffering. So then the phone is not that, it's how we allow it to take control of our lives. So the same thing with the raisins. The problem are not the raisins. The problem is the attachment to the raisins. So in Buddhism, we're gonna say you don't need to change your outside, and you don't need to change so much your behaviors. You need to change your mind and your perception. That is the idea. Understanding how attachment and how grasping, how craving, and how when we don't get what we want, anger comes out. Remember I said effortlessly. Anger comes up. Effortlessly, we see something that we like, grasping comes. I want this, right? So these are the things that we need to start training to let it go, to understand that they are not positive for us. So we see their faults, we see how they work, we let them go, and we put the antidotes. So the antidote for attachment can be meditating on impermanence, right? You say, oh, I might die today, you know? I'm going to waste my time thinking, being angry because I didn't have raisins. Or I can think, so many people in the world don't have access to raisins. Today I'm going to eat without raisins and I'm going to feel satisfied because at least I have oatmeal to eat. You know? So like that, we go training the mind, really training the perception of the mind towards the objects. Because the objects, they are not good or bad. It's just our perception of them. Because if they were good or bad, everybody would need to see in the same way, right? For example, if this flower was beautiful by itself, then everybody here would have to say, oh, what a beautiful flower. But maybe someone is gonna say, oof, what a beautiful flower. No, this flower is not beautiful, right? So the beauty is not in the flower. We say the beauty is in the, how do you say, the eye of the beholder? The eye of the beholder, right? So we are the ones projecting the beauty here. Because if it was coming from the flower and the flower had that permanent characteristic of being beautiful, nobody could see it different than that. We couldn't. It would not be possible. But we don't do that. Each of us here have a different opinion, right? Like all of you here are looking at me and listening to me, and each of you are having a totally different and unique experience. Some of you are just like, oh my God, when this blah 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 is gonna finish, you know? I'm that one, you know? Think, oh my God, this blah 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 here, and then some of you are gonna be, wow, okay. Some of you are gonna be, everything's gonna be subjective. So that means that our happiness and our suffering, the objects that we choose to be attached to, and the objects that we have aversion to, who chooses them? Who decides them? Us. It's not the object. It's not my family, my boss, my partner, my mom and dad. Us. We decide. It's our tendencies, habitual tendencies, patterns that we have been creating that makes us continue wanting a certain thing and not wanting a certain thing, or being averting a certain thing. That is very important because that makes us understand that the responsibility of our happiness and the responsibility of our suffering lies within us. That is the key of the Buddhist teachings. Because these empower ourselves. It makes us powerful to choose. At the same time, it creates a bit of a problem because the ego and the selfish mind wants to blame everybody around us. Right? We want to blame outside. We want to say, oh, no, it's his fault. Oh, I'm in a bad relationship because that person did that to me. Oh, my boss did that to me. Oh, my son, my daughter, You just do that. You blame, oh, yeah, because it's the president's fault, right? That's what we do. But we don't realize that it's our perception of the situation. That is so important. And that is why understanding these eight worldly dharmas and how they work and function and take control of our mind, of our existence, of our life, from the time we wake up until we go to sleep, even in our sleep. That is the beauty or the key point of these teachings, those teachings. Because then, let me see what else Rinpoche was saying here. Yes, because then we cannot really create actions in our lives that are going to be that are going to bring that happiness that we want. If we are all the time thinking about ourselves and fulfilling our like attachments, what makes us happy in the long term is helping others, thinking about others, wanting to fulfill other people's happiness as well. Not only think me, my happiness. Why? Because we are interdependent. We depend on each other. So for you to have your raisins, just think about the amount of people that were involved for you to have your raisins on your oatmeal. It's absolutely nuts. The amount of people for him that if he has a car, that means that some people had to come had the car, the fuel, and then for you to go and buy the thing. So if you have a card or if you have money, so people had to create that, and then the people who sold you the raisins, people who bought the raisins for the company, people who delivered the raisins, people who planted. I don't even know how raisins are made, but the people, all of these for the grapes, but like how they become like all of these, and then you have the people who the grape, all of the water, all of these people were kind enough to do that so you could have your amazing delicious raisins in your oatmeal. And what we do, we use these to feed ourselves and to be angry at everybody because I didn't have my raisins in my oatmeal. So, I start my day bashing people around, kind of like being nah, 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 with people because of that. It's a bit funny, but it is. That's how we are, you know? And of course, we are today making fun of Jack and the raisins. But if we look into our lives, we do it as well, all of us, with small things like that, and even bigger things. But then we think that we are, oh no, yes, but these people, the person that did to me. Then we start to say, but wait a minute, that person also is thinking about themselves. That person also wants to be, happy, but they don't know. They are also falling the eight worldly concerns. They're also grasping for these things, believing that it's going to bring happiness. How can I contribute for their suffering? How? If we understand the eight worldly concerns, not only we understand the causes of our sufferings and what we are suffering for, and we can understand the other person, we can start to see every single person in our lives is doing exactly the same. There's only compassion that arises. Only compassion. May I be able to help these people see and be free from that. Then, when this wish is generated within ourselves, wow, life becomes joyful. Life becomes meaningful. We have a purpose of life, which is not just only us, our own little world, our own little pity life, but it's about others, right? So then we open our hearts, and then all of these incredible qualities that we have, compassion, love, kindness, patience, all of these, generosity, all of these that are now restricted by the eight worldly concerns and me, they become unconditional and unlimited. Then we live from this expand type of mind, that mind that is like the ocean, just huge, vast. You all have that, you all experience that at some point when the day starts well, when you're like, yeah, there's a problem, it's okay, we're gonna find a solution. When you are kind of like, when you're in that vibe, right? We can live into these and we can make it like permanent, always like that, and even go beyond that, much better than that. That we now don't even know that we can possible. That's what we can do. So that is special. The potential that we have within ourselves. That is what we say the potential to become a Buddha. That is what enlightenment means. It's realizing this, experiencing this, living this. That is what we all have within ourselves. Okay? That's what the idea of the talk today. That we can understand where we are at, understand our situation, understand what we need to actually, retreat from, understand how we can let it go of these eight worldly dharmas. And if we do that, if we open our hearts in an unlimited and unconditional way, then only love and compassion and kindness and generosity pours out from us. So imagine if we can be this, every other sentient being can do that. So then, no more wars, no more famine, no more economical problems, no more, disputes, no more people killing each other, no more problems with political problems, no more, disagreements, no more climate change, because we would not be greedy. Can you imagine? So everything comes from that, from the mind, from this possibility that we have of transforming ourselves and achieving this incredible state. That was the idea of today. So thank you so much for coming. Every time that we finish an activity, because we just planted seed and we nourished, so now we do what we call a dedication. But dedication is an idea that, let's say that we are planting a seed. So first we're going to go and we're going to open, a hole. And then we're going to plant the seed. That is the motivation. The motivation is to dig the hole and plant the seed. So now, during this talk and whatever we discussed, the questions and the raisins, we closed, we nourish, we put some water and we are there. Oh yes, there's sun. We are making all the conditions, making sure. But if we leave it open, the hole, then it's not gonna sprout. We needed to have it sealed and to make sure that our intention for that positive seed to arise, to sprout, will sprout. So that's what dedication means. We are sealing our intention so we can bring about that throughout our days. That's what we do. We dedicate that everything that we heard, everything that we thought, contemplated, everything that we spoke, everything that, that makes us think about, oh, okay, let's check. All of these may it become and bring about that long-term happiness that we all wish. May we be able to achieve this, but not only for ourselves, but that we may be able to help others to do the same. That is what we dedicate. So we're going to do some dedication prayers. Also, dedication prayers, like, they are aspirations. They help us to seal and to remind ourselves. Okay? So we go start on page 235 on the Golden Book. 235. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen rise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praises the best by the victorious ones thus gone of the three times, so I might perform good works. I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of perfect pure Losandrapa to shine forever. And now we go to page 246. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain a notion of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And we would not be here because of the interdependence that we have in our lives. We would not be here if it was not for the kindness of our teachers, and especially, of Lama Zopa Rinpoche and His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who, out of his compassion and kindness, he lost his country, but at least he was able to bring the Dharma to us, you know, in here in our daily life, something, a tool and a toolbox, as I say, a philosophy that helps us to find happiness and to not suffer and to help others to do the same. So we dedicate for His Holiness long and healthy life so he can continue being a beacon of light, harmony, interreligious dialogue, and he can contribute to a more peaceful and loving world. So we go on page 244 to the long life prayer for His Holiness. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And now we go to page 200 and I think it's 34? 234, no? Prayer for the swift return. Because Rinpoche, Lama Zopa Rinpoche passed away last year, our teacher. And in Buddhism, because of the interdependence, we're gonna request him to come back and to continue teaching us. So for him to have a new reincarnation and be able to help us continue on our practice of Dharma until we achieve enlightenment. So we ask him for that. So we pray for his swift return. Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pradeka Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you are the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the oceans of the three jewels and the great ways of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. So thank you very, very, very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. I hope you can bring these to your daily lives. And Sunday we have our potluck lunch. So you're welcome to come on Sunday. Roy is gonna prepare delicious food for everybody. and Jack is gonna bring and Jack is gonna bring raisins for everybody. I'm gonna bring a key lime pie. That is the day? 'Cause someone gave to me and I said, I'm gonna wait for the Sunday so everybody can have a piece. So then you can come. We have meditation from 10 to 10:40. No?
10:15 to 10:40.
10:15 to 10:45, and then 11 to 12:30, blah 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 with me, and then we have lunch. Okay, so you're all welcome to come and join us. Otherwise, yes, we also have the meditations in the morning, 7:30 to 8. So just, yeah, whatever you think that helps, we are here. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, online people. Good night.